Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Islamic Pulse Talk Show. We are talking about the socio-political significance of the holy month of Ramadan.
Is almost a close consensus within the Islamic world that you need to go through these 12 Imams and especially the Imam of the age to reach that point of utter perfection. Right? Now, what does sin do? Sin takes you away from, and this is something that people can't normally realize unless they study the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt. Because if, like, for example, if I'm looking at a na-mahram, a strange woman or a strange man, right, who I'm not allowed to look towards or attain sexual pleasure from, right? If a layman's mind would not be able to make the connection between this and proximity to the Imam, right? Spiritual proximity to the Imam. It would be like something that I'm doing on the side and like bil akhire, right?
Yeah,
or consuming alcohol, for
so
example.
what we're about to do, just to kind of again set the stage, is that we have sins on one side and we have obedience on the other side, and how these two have an effect with our connection to the Imam of the time,
Absolutely.
which again has an effect upon our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, we're answering the question of why are we doing all this in the holy month of Ramadan? Please continue. Yeah.
So if I am committing a sin, even if it's a private sin, because many of the youngsters out there, they have this question. If I'm doing like a private sin, within my own house, within my own room,
Yeah, sure.
you know, see, I'm not hurting anyone, I'm not hurting anyone's feelings, I'm not hurting anyone financially or physically. So why should this be such a big issue? It's between me and God, hello. But the problem is that you're inflicting this wound upon your own soul,
Yeah.
creating a distance between you and the Imam, right? And you're basically training your soul to be more climatized, more accustomed to impure things than to absolute purity, right?
Oh, darkness and light. if you
Darkness
will.
and light. So the example that we were talking about before we started the show. So, for example, in these novels that you have about Lord of the Rings and Hobbit and etc., you have this character called Gollum, I think, right?
Yeah, Gollum. Yeah.
He lives underground, he lives in caves, and he's been seduced by the evil of the ring, right? So one of the issues with this, metaphorically speaking, is that when he comes out into light, he can't bear the radiance of light, which, as if anyone's read all of these novels, and
He says it burns.
it burns, right? And J.R.R. Tolkien, he used to incorporate much of the idea of Christ and the Messiah and Christian stuff
even
into
there's
his.
a separate discussion, but there's
a
these
lot of
kind of discriminatory tones against even Muslims, people of the East versus people of the West.
Exactly.
But, we'll do a talk show on that one
We
day.
won't go into that.
Yeah, but the light burns him because he's used to the
because
darkness.
he's used to the dark. The more you get used to the dark, the more you get friends with the dark. Because you see, when you repeat an action over and over again, the human natures of this sort, it becomes first in the very first instances, it breaks the taboo. Then it breaks the guilt. Then it becomes normalized, then it becomes naturalized.
And then it becomes addictive.
And then it becomes...
where even if you wanted to stop, you won't be able to.
Addiction happens even before this. Because addiction, many addicts are actually, they're not happy with their condition, right?
Sure.
But they don't know how to get out of it. But when it becomes normalized and naturalized, then this is the right thing. This is the right thing. This is the best thing to do. And then there is this uns that you develop with that
desire,
action.
this liking.
Not just desire, this liking, this kind of a friendship, this kind of a trust.
Well, almost like a taste for it.
A taste for it, exactly. So, like in more traditional times, if an animal got a taste of human blood.
Well, with tigers, they used to say
they
that
need
if a
to
tiger
put
tasted human blood, that it will keep on killing humans rather than like goats or sheep.
Exactly. And then they needed to put it down, right? So what Islam is trying to do through these rituals through getting you to stop sinning is to stop you from that path.
Which leads you away from the Imam.
That leads you, because once you've become, once these sins, these pieces of darkness have become naturalized, then it isn't that the Imam doesn't want you anymore.
You don't
It's
want
not,
the Imam.
you can't tolerate the Imam anymore.
It's
in one of
interesting.
the narrations, sorry to cut you off, in one of the narrations, they explain that many of the people who will end up in hell is because they can't tolerate heaven. The problem is that it's like someone who is so accustomed to eating stuff that is like impure, that if you give them pure milk, they'll start vomiting, right? So they need to burn in hell for a long period of time in order to reduce that,
get rid of that.
Actually understand the batin, the true nature of what they were doing, to be purified of that. It's like a what do you call these things that you have all over the world where they send addicts?
The rehabilitation
the
centers.
Rehabilitation centers, right? And then they'll be released from hell and they'll be able to finally
enjoy the light.
Enjoy the light, right?
Which they were created for.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
Exactly.
Well, what I was going to add in there was that we see this with the divinely appointed Imams, alayhimussalam. This hatred that some people had for the Messenger of Allah, for Imam Ali, for Imam Hussein.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very case in point of what you're talking about, is that these people became so accustomed to darkness because of their sins, mental, physical, psychological, because of their sins, and they became so dark that they couldn't tolerate people like Imam Hussein alayhi salam.
So in the narration from the Holy Prophet, it says that no one will hate Ali except a munafiq, and no one would love Ali except someone who has faith, right? And the same is true for all the Ahlul Bayt, because Ali is a symbol, Ali alayhi salam is a symbol of someone who has wilaya. And in fact, we can even say that if Ali is in these narrations is a symbol of someone who has wilaya, then even after the infallible Imams, like for example, you could say this, that no one would hate Muslim ibn Aqil except a munafiq, and no one would love Muslim ibn Ali and obey him except a true believer. And that turned out to be true in history, right?
Yeah.
So in the same manner, if someone is the deputy of the Imam and has that rank of wilaya in the Imam's absence, again you find these emotions, like you around the world, you see that you have people who, in the words of Sayyid al-Haydari, he says that if you look at all of the oppressors of the world, who do they hate right now?
Yeah.
Who would they rather have removed from the pages of history? It's Sayyid Ali Khamenei, Hafizahullah. Right?
Yeah.
So
this is what we were doing was the holy month of Ramadan is this cool breeze, and in this cool breeze, which is, well, it's helping you, one, to reduce the sins, which is what we're talking about, increase the obedience, and this is a special moment where I guess the doors of the heavens are open, the opportunities are open for you to be able to recalibrate these things. So if
now Islam realizes that normal people throughout the year, and because Islam wasn't just for 1400 years ago. Allah knew that we would be living in times where all of the sins would be available at the fingertip, right? And in fact, in certain societies around the world, in fact, the majority of societies around the world, sin will be thrust upon you. It won't just be a matter of choice, it will be a matter of survival that you might actually. So, within such a situation, Islam realizes that you're going to be polluting yourself, right? Now it creates a system. It says that within this month, and when you pollute yourself, in fact, let me rephrase myself. When you pollute yourself, you become addicted to those things. It becomes the new norm, right? And when it becomes the new norm, if you've worked with or if you've read about addicts, you see that one of the things that addicts have is that they do not believe that they can give up, right? They tell others that they can give up any time, but deep down inside, they feel that they are too weak to do this, that it is impossible to survive without heroin or without alcohol or without any of those. So this sort of a sinful lifestyle itself becomes addictive. And we're not just talking about the run-of-the-mill sins of life, right? Even the fact that you are, like right now in Western lifestyle, centrality in life is for money, right?
Sure, yeah.
So if you ask someone that can you live without the dollar being the most important thing in your life? Say, well, don't make jokes with me. Why are you kidding me around, right? Or even something lower than that for youngsters. Can you live without using TikTok, or like you'll have to right now for in the United States? Nintendo or PS whatever, 4, 5, 6,
like
right?
6, 7, 8.
Or Facebook or whatever, right? Social media. It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
Things like i'tikaf, things like Ramadan, they allow you to regain that confidence in your own free will. They show you that if you can give up something that is halal, right? Eating halal food, halal drinks, right? Then obviously you can do the same. You have the power to do the same
the rest of the year.
For the rest of the year too.
What's interesting is many times we feel or we see that we even stop sinning in this holy month of Ramadan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, even unfortunately, we're kind of picking on the addict, but I think that there are addicts who, during the fasting time, they don't do their
they don't
addictive
smoke,
behavior.
for example.
The simplest is they don't smoke, right?
Yeah.
They don't smoke, or they don't. And it does teach us, the holy month of Ramadan, that not only can you give up your sins, but you can also, on the other hand, control yourself even with the things that are halal.
And what does that come back to? Like, because the thing that I was kind of moving towards was this. You have particular wrongful actions. Then these wrongful actions become habits. Then they become normalized, naturalized. Then they become part of your lifestyle. That you reach a point where you believe that these cannot be put aside. These are almost as important for me as oxygen. So if I move away from this, I'll die, or my life, my social life,
is over.
Will be destroyed. For example, like if someone decides that they will not partake in interest-based economy while living in the United States, how will that turn out, right? It would be a disaster. Like in the mind, it would be a disaster, right? Cool. Now, what happens in Ramadan or in other phases of piety that Allah has designed for us throughout the year, like Muharram, for example, what happens is, in fact, before that, I'm sorry, because I go into these tangents. When they start believing that this is as important as oxygen and this is absolutely important for their survival, then they forego upon their own belief in their own willpower. Now, one of the very important elements within Islam, in fact, one of those sacred things that even Allah believes to be sacred, is free will.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
This gift of free will that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to the jinn and to the insan, to the human beings and the jinn. And He's not allowed this in this manner at least. He hasn't allowed this to other things that exist. So compromising on this free will means compromising upon the entire project of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you two things in order to reach perfection: free will and what they call in Arabic fursa, the time, the opportunity, right?
The window of opportunity.
If you take any of these two away, if you take the opportunity away, then even free will won't be of any use. If you take free will away, but you have all the opportunities in the world,
you won't do anything.
You won't do anything, right? So what happens to a person who is addicted to sin, and maybe most of us don't even realize that we are addicted to sin, it becomes so naturalized, is that we compromise upon our own belief in our willpower, the strength of our willpower,
to be able to do
the strength to change,
right? To become better.
If we compromise upon, or if we let go and lose faith in our own will, in our own power to change ourselves, then obviously we will never have a trust in us being able to change the world. Someone who can't even fix his own house, right? Right? How is he supposed to talk about revolution and bringing about the society of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So
They
that
won't
is
be
the
able
game
to.
of the devil.
Mm.
You see, this is where you see the footpath, the footprints of Shaytan. Shaytan is trying to get those strategic weapons away from you,
Yeah.
those potent weapons away from you,
And
accustomizing you to sinfulness, therefore creating hurdles within your spirit. One of those key hurdles that everyone can understand, it's not just something that the Urafa can see when the curtains are removed from their eyes. Everyone can understand this. When you get accustomed to these practices and this way of life, then you lose faith in your own free will. You lose faith in your own potency for
your power and
creating
strength.
change, your strength, your power for creating change. And when you can't create change even within your own life, if you can't give up like smoking, then how will you, for example, give up something that is,
Well, your life, for example.
yeah, how will you give up your life? Or how will you convince others to bring about these huge changes within society? Even non-Muslims understood this logic. One of the famous people in contemporary history, he said that be the change that you want to see within society. I think he was one of the leaders of the subcontinent. Be the change that you want to be in society, right?
Yeah.
So,
and well, the holy month of Ramadan, it helps you to be able to break from these things,
break from those
and
chains.
It's an opportunity to break from the chains and believe that you can, and it's a purification process. Sayyid, I think that we're probably halfway done through the whole discussion, but we're a full way done with the time that we had. So, inshallah, I think that if we continue the discussion in the next session, and to be able to do full justice to it. But I think so far a very powerful discussion regarding the, this question was simple: why we're doing this in the holy month of Ramadan, but why we're doing it, the answers are quite profound. So if you allow, we'll leave it to conclude in the next one, inshallah. Jazakallah, thank you so much, and Allah bless you, Sayyid. And dear viewers, thanks for joining us on the Islamic Pulse Talk Show. We were just talking about a few preliminary points regarding the socio-political significance of the holy month of Ramadan. It's turning out to be a much longer discussion than we were expecting, so we will continue in the next session, inshallah. That's all from us for now. Have a blessed holy month of Ramadan. Fi amanullah, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.